Now you may not know this, but firms actually overpay sales tax as much as they underpay sales tax. So what we do is we go into a lot of our large clients and we identify their overpayments and get the money back from them, which is an interesting item because now with everyone collecting sales tax, we actually think the likelihood of overpayments will go up in the near future, and the way that clients are audited by the government are going to change because of Wayfair as well. So from a big perspective, all the states for the most part have implemented an economic nexus threshold or law in some form or another. So that's really where we are today. So if you're sitting in this room and you're a CPA and you haven't complied, or you're a company you haven't complied, you really need to get on board. I mean, I don't see any other chance of this going away. So one consequence of filing a zero tax return, okay, in a state is number one, you're registering, you're on the company's radar, and if you're filing a zero tax return, you have hundreds of what? Exemption certificates, okay? You didn't care about collecting those exemption certificates in all these states before because you had no filing obligation. That was never going to be audited by the state. Well, anyone that's been through a sales tax audit, okay, the number one thing auditors target if you have exempt sales is they want to see all your resale certificates for all your clients. So clients were kind of poo-pooing, well, I'm sale for resale, I don't need to register there, Chris, you're being a little, too much, you're trying to make extra money, whatever. I said, do what you want, right? I always put my CPA accountant hat on, tax advisor, and then my business hat on as well. I just want to let you know, if you're audited by a state, that you're filing zero tax returns, and if you choose to do that and you're not collecting the certificates, those are all taxable sales. Well, can I go back and get the certificate? Yeah, you can. I mean, 95% of the auditors are reasonable, but guess what happens when you go get that certificate? The company's out of business. So what happens if the company's out of business? If you get an auditor that wants to follow the letter of the law, you owe sales tax on that transaction. So there were all these other consequences of Wayfair that, obviously we're learning about this every day, but yes, the sales thresholds being so broad and defined as gross was really a challenge. And so when you're going back to the analysis, when you're doing this analysis, I think that's the number one thing you have to focus on. Making the right decision, okay, of whether you're going to file zero returns, which you probably should most of the time, but if you're in a situation where you have exempt certificates, if you're going to file the zero return, you have to have a process in place. Obviously, Avalara's got a nice product with cert capture. You could do it manually. There's other ways to do it. But please keep that in mind as you're doing this analysis, as you start flipping the flags. Exemption certificates now become a big part of your business and what you need to analyze. So when we're helping our clients go do this economic nexus evaluation report, what this has done, we give them our total nexus analysis as well. So we said, okay, we're going to talk about economic nexus, but can we ask you these other questions just in case? So guess what happens? One of the questions is, have you ever had a sales rep in a state before? Well, yeah, Sally worked in North Carolina for 2 years, but we didn't think it was a big deal. Tom, our rep that goes out and fixes our equipment, yeah, he travels to 17 states. We've never filed in those states before. So if you're doing your economic nexus evaluation report, you need to really do a full nexus study, okay? You need to understand all the activities that happened in that state. I've had clients that told me they're filing payroll taxes. One client, I said, all right, we're going to do a study. They go, oh, don't worry about these 5 states because we already filed payroll taxes in those states. I'm like, why do you file payroll taxes? We have employees. Why aren't you collecting sales tax? Oh, it's just one employee. How many times I've heard that? We only have one employee in the state. One employee creates physical nexus almost in every state. So as part of your process of looking at your business and determining what you do next, do the economic nexus study and then do the full questionnaire. Find out the activities that create nexus in the past that create some form of physical nexus. Do the analysis, no matter what type of company you're in, what type of industry you're in, and then definitely do the physical presence. Ask operations, find out what's been going on. Well, let me share one example where there's a massive confusion on is Amazon FBA. I'm going to talk about Marketplace a little later, so I don't want to talk about Marketplace yet. But if you are an Amazon FBA user, okay, you have had physical presence in those states. I have this conversation, Scott, like 3 or 4 times a week. Yeah. You've had physical presence since you first put that piece of inventory, when you sent it to Amazon in New Jersey and they turned around and sent it to their 17 warehouses. When they sent it out to those 17 warehouses, you've had physical presence in the state since then. So if you're coming into this economic nexus analysis and you're trying to determine what to do, if you have anything sold through Amazon FBA, if you're a CPA with clients or you're a company that sells through Amazon FBA, that created physical nexus, and it's very likely, I mean, Amazon, Fulfillment by Amazon's been around since I think 2015, some version of it. So another thing as part of your analysis to keep in mind, besides people, employees, if you're doing business with Amazon, you may have had physical nexus going as far back as 2015, and then we'll talk about marketplace in a minute here. But that's just another thing to think about as you're determining, whether you have nexus and what to say.